Every Indian engineer wants to do an MBA. Actually, scratch that. Every Indian wants to do an MBA. And well, that's for good reason. You make a lot of money, of course. But should you do an MBA in India or should you do an MBA abroad? How do you make that decision? Well, today I'm going to expose you to some critical factors and help you make that important decision by the end of this video. So stay tuned for the next few minutes. So I'm Sreekar the co-founder of Gradvine and a Dartmouth grad. So in the format of this video, I'm going to lay out for you the pros and cons of an MBA in India and then the pros and cons of an MBA abroad. And then I'm going to give you a conclusion of the most important factors you have to keep in mind while making this decision. So let's start off with an MBA in India. So what are the pros of pursuing an MBA in India? Number one, in terms of return on investment, an MBA in India is usually very good. Indian recruiters value MBAs a lot, and therefore if you go to a good B school in India, then your starting salaries are going to be high. Even though some MBA programs are expensive, they can cost you anywhere between 25 to 45 lakhs on an average. And this, I'm talking about the good schools, not the mediocre ones. Your return on investment and your starting salaries are going to be strong enough so that you reap the benefits for the rest of your career. If you compare this to foreign MBAs, Indian MBAs are far cheaper. And even though the starting salaries are lower, your return on investment is very solid. So what is the second pro or an advantage of doing an Indian MBA? If you are an Indian citizen and doing an Indian MBA, then you don't have to worry about visa norms or stayback periods. All you have to worry about is finding a job. And finding a job is a little easier with Indian MBAs because we have the concept of campus placements. Recruiters come onto campus and recruit you straight from where you're sitting. This is an incredible advantage because in foreign MBAs, you have to do your own job search and you have to network very effectively. It is for sure that finding a job after an Indian MBA is a little easier because the process is a little less tedious. Apart from that, you don't have to worry about the company sponsoring a visa for you as a foreign student, and therefore as long as you build your skill set, you have a greater pool of recruiters who will be looking for you. Alright, so in terms of pros, I've told you two things. Indian MBAs offer you great return on investment, finding jobs is comparatively easier, you don't have to worry about visa norms. So it's all rosy, right? Why would you even consider an MBA abroad? Well, this is because there are certain cons which I'm going to talk to you about. The first problem with Indian MBAs is the entrance processes. They can be incredibly competitive, and a lot of times the likelihood of you getting into a top MBA program is almost out of your hand. This is because of the ultra high cutoffs for the entrance tests. For example, most top MBA programs in India take a CAT score, which is a nationwide exam. And there are also reservations, which further complicates matters. I've seen so many candidates in the past who've scored 98.5 to 99 percentiles on the CAT, who come from the open category, not get a call from any of the top IIMs, and therefore are very disheartened. You'll have to understand that getting into the IIM specifically is almost a lottery of a process, and hard work doesn't guarantee great results. So you have to make peace with that. The second con, and perhaps this may not be as big a factor for some, is that these Indian MBA classes are usually not very diverse. When you go to a foreign MBA, most people feel that the exposure they have and the overall learning experience is a little bit better. This is because they have classmates from a variety of different countries with diverse experiences, and the entire depth of interaction with the professors at foreign universities who are, corporate hotshots themselves is deemed to be more insightful overall. This is something you might miss in an Indian MBA classroom, but again, because of the cost factor, a lot of students are willing to compromise on this. But don't be completely disheartened though. You don't have to go through these competitive exams or the CAT for all MBA programs. Did you know that the IIMs offer an executive MBA program that takes you on the basis of a GMAT score and not the CAT? However, for these executive MBA programs, you need to have over 4 to 5 years of work experience before applying. You need a GMAT score, and then your application is evaluated holistically without any reservations or quotas coming in. Some other great schools in India which have MBA programs that take you on the basis of a GMAT are ISB, which is the Indian School of Business, a very popular option that you might have heard of. A new kid on the block, which is Masters Union, which is getting some decent reviews as well. And finally, the BIT School of Management in Mumbai, which is also a very promising course that evaluates holistic applications, not purely on the basis of your CAT score. Alright, now that you know everything about the pros and cons of pursuing an MBA in India, let me do the same for MBAs abroad. Now, the first major pro for an MBA abroad is the holistic application process. You are evaluated on multiple aspects, including the quality of your work experience, your GMAT score, and your academic credentials. Therefore, you can play up your strengths and try and make it to some top schools. This doesn't mean that getting into the top 10 B schools is easy, but it certainly is easier than getting into one of the IIMs here. Also, if you look at countries like the US specifically, there are at least 25 B schools that offer great return on investment, and therefore your options are diversified. With the lower competition, you can feel far more secure in terms of securing a top 25 MBA admit. However, keep in mind, for these schools, your GMAT score is important. It's not the be all and end all, but a good GMAT score and having good work experience matters a lot. What about the second pro in terms of doing an MBA abroad? I already told you that you will be getting great return on investment if you go to an MBA in the right university and in the right country. Since global MBAs are valued across North America and Europe, your starting salaries, if you go to a decent MBA program, are going to be very, very high. Therefore, even though you're going to be investing a lot, your return on investment is secure. If you do manage to secure the H-1B in the US, or you get the work permit in Europe, then the amount you're going to be earning for a number of years is going to be much, much higher, and the exposure and the corporate growth you're going to experience is also going to be significant. Alright, like always, it's not a completely rosy picture. The first con of doing an MBA abroad is the fact that these MBAs are very, very expensive. If you're going to go to the US, some top MBAs can cost you as much as $1.5 crore, which is much, much higher than the 25 to 45 lakhs that you're going to be spending in India typically. However, your starting salaries are also going to be much, much higher. Therefore, the return on investment is sort of balanced. But because you're going to be dependent on an international student visa, and then you're going to be dependent on work permits, there is an element of risk to it. If you go to the USA, make sure that you're doing a STEM designated MBA. Fortunately for you, pretty much every top 25-30 MBA in the US is now STEM designated, and therefore you get a 3-year extension on your student visa to stay back and work, which ensures the safety of your investment. Other countries which have friendly visa norms and good job opportunities, which will make sure that you're not ending up with student debt, are the Netherlands, France, a couple of schools in the UK, and to a certain extent Canada. The second con of doing an MBA abroad is not exactly a con, but a little bit of a requirement. Most foreign MBA programs will require upwards of 3 years of work experience. In fact, the average work experience of incoming candidates at a lot of top US B schools is about 5 years, and this goes up to about 6 or 7 years at some of the top European schools. Therefore, if you're fresh out of college with 1 or 2 years of work experience, it may not make much sense for you to apply to an MBA program abroad. You might have to settle for something in India. However, if you're willing to wait and get 3, 4, 5 years of work experience, then the likelihood that you'll get into a top B school abroad and therefore secure your return on investment is much, much higher. So an MBA in India versus an MBA abroad depends on your own situation. If you have the budget to spend and you're willing to take that little bit of a risk, an MBA abroad can make a lot of sense. However, if spending upwards of $1 crore is out of question, then you might have to settle for an MBA in India, which is not a problem at all. Be sure of the requirements and what aspects of the profile they take into account while giving you an admit. If you want to know more details about this, you can always schedule a free consultation call with us on our website or using the link in the description, and we'd love to help you out. Also, if you are a management program aspirant and you don't want to spend as much and you don't have as much work experience but still want to do a management program abroad, we've done a video about the top 10 engineering management programs in the USA, and I'm sure that will be interesting for all of you engineers out there. You can click on the link here to watch that video. If you like this content, please be sure to like, share and subscribe, and tell your friends all about the wonderful work that Gradwine is doing.